So, should you buy VivoBarefoot shoes? Well, I just put about 400 miles into these ones, and here are my thoughts. I've only been using these shoes for about 6 months, and you might be thinking to yourself that they look pretty worn out, and that's fair, they do look pretty worn. But let's go over the activities that I do in them, because I usually do wear on my shoes pretty quick. I run almost every day. I average about 15 miles a week, which over the course of the 6 months turns out to about 360 miles, although I also just ran a relay race called Hood to Coast, of which my legs were about 20 miles, so that's why we're getting up to about 400 miles on the shoes in the last 6 months. But then I wear them to the gym about 6 days a week, and I also wear them to pickleball about once a week for a couple-hour session, and I do wear them around occasionally for everyday things like running errands and picking up groceries and all that. But all this to say, while they are only 6 months old, I do wear them a lot, and usually when I have shoes, they don't make it longer than a year. 1 year is usually my benchmark for if a shoe is lasting as long as I want it to, because I end up wearing them out quick. I do a lot of things that wear out shoes. The model I got is called the Primus Trail 2 FG. So I'm gonna be talking about these ones specifically, but just know a lot of these things will apply to all of Vivo's shoes. So after wearing these shoes for a while, what do I think about the feel of the shoe? Well, I'm coming from Vibrum's barefoot 5-finger toe shoes, if that gives you any relevance. So I'm used to barefoot shoes, but I'm not used to open toe box shoes. With the Vibrums, they have each individual toe has its own little slot. But anyway, these have been by far my favorite, most comfortable shoe that I've ever worn. And I have to put the caveat in there that if you're not used to wearing barefoot shoes, you probably won't think that because there's almost no sole, which is part of the point of barefoot shoes. But if you're used to barefoot shoes, these feel so comfortable. They're crazy light. They're incredibly breathable, so your feet don't get hot and sweaty generally. I mean, of course they do a little bit, but not that bad. And my favorite part is because the toe box is so big and wide and it's so flexible, your toes feel like almost like you're wearing socks. You don't really notice that there's a shoe on your foot. And that's about the highest praise that I can give these shoes right there. So I would say as far as comfort and feel, these shoes are fantastic. I absolutely love them. The only thing that I don't like as far as comfort is they have these shoelaces, which are kind of the pull tight easy laces, which I'm fine with, I've got no problem with. But the way that they pull tight, it ends up pulling right on the top of your foot, like almost where your foot meets your ankle, and it gets especially tight right there. And so sometimes I have to wear the shoes a little bit looser because when I'm running, that part will rub on my ankle. It's not that big of a deal, but I thought I should mention it. But now we gotta talk about durability, because while they feel amazing, and I seriously think these are my favorite shoes I've ever worn, they are expensive. These came in at $160 at retail, and all of their shoes are around that price, or some are even more expensive. So if you're paying that much for a shoe, you really want it to be durable. So how durable are they? We'll start with the top of the shoe, and as you can see, most of it looks pretty good other than the toe. And this might be a personal problem for me, because the reason that the toes are all scuffed up and scratched up like that is because I learned I actually drag my toe when I'm hitting during pickleball. Sometimes when I make a running hit, I'll drag my toe, and that's what's really scuffing up the top. So if you don't play pickleball or tennis or something, or you don't drag your toe, yours probably will look a lot better than mine. But if you look around the rest of the shoe, it actually looks pretty good. Oh, and I should say, I intentionally didn't wash them so you could see what they look like on a daily basis, not when they're looking all fresh and clean. But then I think the scary part is when you look at the bottom of the shoe. To me, if you look, these little, I think they're called lugs, the tread, you can tell I land pretty heavily on the ball of my foot, and the little triangle treads are worn almost all the way down to flat in the parts that I hit most, whereas you can see like on my heel or in the middle of my foot, those are still fully just as tall as they were when they were new. So to me, what this is showing is that after about 400 miles of running, the tread is totally worn off in the part of my foot that I land on, which for me, again, is the ball of my foot. So does this mean the shoe is worn out? No, and I think I'm probably gonna keep wearing them for a long time, but that tread is gone. So I would say after about a year or about 800 miles on these shoes, I would expect the ball of the foot to be totally worn out and to be totally flat. that might be okay, but it also might make it slippery when you're running on like wet surfaces or ice or something. So that's something that you need to consider. So I would say as far as durability, they've worn pretty well. They look pretty good, again, except for me dragging my toe. But the soles did wear out a bit faster than I was expecting. I was hoping, because of how expensive they are, that I might get something more like 2,000 miles out of these shoes, or maybe 1,000 miles out of these shoes. But what it looks like to me is the tread is worn flat after 400 miles, so that's something to expect. Another thing I should include is that I weigh around 190 pounds. So if you were lighter, maybe you wouldn't wear them out as fast, but if you're heavier, you're probably gonna wear them out even faster. So just something to consider. So would I buy these shoes again, or basically, are they worth it? I would say yes, they are worth it, but I'm definitely gonna try and wait for a sale because they're kind of expensive. And I had hoped that they were going to last me a bit longer, but what it looks like is that I might get another 6 months out of these before the tread is totally worn out. And then I'll probably use them as my gym shoes and maybe as a pickleball shoe for another year, but they probably will not be my main running shoe after a year. So yeah, overall thoughts, I think it's a fantastic shoe. I just think it wears out a little bit faster than I would have hoped. All right, that's gonna do it for this review. If you have any questions about the shoes or about my running habits or whatever it is, let me know in the comment section below and I'll try to get to them. And thanks for watching. See you guys.